We will hopefully be pitch side later on, which of course is when it will start chucking down with rain, but fingers crossed it'll hold. So a very, very warm welcome to all of you to the 2014 Software Partner College for IBM. Thank you all for being here, for spending your time, precious time to be here with your friends, your colleagues, your peers. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of time for you guys to interact with each other. Thank you for those that have travelled. I know, again, we've got a big Irish contingent who've been up very early to get onto flights here, so thank you to them. My name is Dominic Poloniecki. I will be your host today, and I'm the Director of Channel and Enterprise for Software Group in UK and Ireland. Now, I haven't been given any housekeeping things, but I feel like I probably should do some housekeeping. So, two things to say. One is mobile phones, please, off or on silent. And the second thing to say is if there is a fire alarm, it's not a test, it's the real thing. Run for your lives. Normally I'd be a little bit daunted about speaking to 650 odd people, but my job today is very, very easy. I've got two very simple jobs. One is to big up the event today. That's really easy because we ran this event last year for the first time, and it was so good that we were shortlisted and we're now finalists for Event of the Year last year with the CRN. So fingers crossed we will win that. Thank you. And this year we're going to do even better than last year because we've learned from what we did last year and we're going to make it even better. So that's easy. In fact, it was so popular this year that we had to close registrations early, and we have now 40% more people attending this year than last year. So probably health and safety should be even more paramount, but anyway. So that's the first job. My second job is to basically shut up and get out of the way for Rugby Greatness, who I'll be introducing shortly. Some of you may have seen on the front row. So easy job for me today. But before I do that, I'm going to set the scene and explain why we've called this event Breaking New Ground. And we've used those words very purposefully because our industry, the industry that we all represent, is going through profound change at the moment. It has been for many years, but crucially at this point through profound change. And I use that word, again, very purposefully. Because there are a number of trends in the technology industry that are happening. And if one of these was happening, it would be big. But there are a number happening all at once and converging at the same time. And let me talk about some of those. So the first is what I call pervasive instrumentation. You may hear this described as connected devices. 1 trillion connected devices and rising to the internet. Things like mobile devices, connected cars, intelligent grids, all of these connected and pushing out data. Sometimes it's referred to as the Internet of Things or machine to machine. Mobile everywhere. More people in the world have a mobile device than have access to running water. And that is driving a different consumer, a more engaged consumer, a more demanding consumer that is willing to give up their own personal data for a more personalized experience, but the requirements on us as the technology providers to deliver that in a secure environment is absolutely paramount. Because whilst they're willing to give it up, if it's compromised, your relationship with that consumer is over. The second thing. The third is social. 20% of the world's population is connected to a social network. And we believe that our clients will soon be spending up to 20% of their budgets on social and social marketing. And all of these trends underpinned by cloud. Cloud being the enablement and the availability of IT applications and services and business processes in a digital cloud environment. Big shift. Now, all of these things are generating what we call big data. And again, another big trend that you'll hear about. But let me talk about that. Those are the things that generate all the big data. So 2.5 billion gigabytes of data is generated per day. So let me put that in some kind of perspective. 80% of data since the history of time has been generated in the last 2 years. And that data, as I'm sure you've all heard many times before, comes in two forms. Structured data, traditional relational database type data, easy to access, easy to mine, easy to understand. And unstructured, more than 80% of the data unstructured. Tweets, social media, some of the connected devices I talked about before, photos, videos, location data, much, much harder to mine, much, much more complex, and the requirement of some of the tools that we've been investing in are paramount to get insight from that data. And if you saw the video up front, some of the adverts that we run, you will hear what customers are talking about in this concept of big data. I will quote that client earlier. We used to use intuition to make decisions. Now we use analytics. And let me just make this a little bit more real. So yesterday I was with the CFO, and we were talking about big data, their choice of words. And she said, we want to move from intuition to leveraging data to validate our intuition. So almost verbatim what we heard there on the video. So this is real, and this is, this is what our customers are saying. So those are the, if you like, the big trends that are changing and why we're talking about breaking new ground. So let me localize that a little bit to the UK and Ireland market. We have an addressable IT market of around about £82 billion. Big market for all of us to go after and enjoy. It shouldn't be as busy as it feels, but part of the reason it feels busy is that 60% of that addressable market is in the traditional space, around systems, core middleware, and the associated services around that. And that is declining. It's a declining market, and it's busy. Some of it is growing. Small pockets like the MSP space, for example, are growing in those areas, but generally that is a declining market. The other 40% of that 82 billion is in some of the areas that I talked about earlier, some of these growth areas. And they are growing, and they're growing significantly. So let me just give you a couple of examples. Cloud in the UK and Ireland is growing at 28%. Mobile at 19%. Big, big growth numbers. And we need to break new ground together to address these new markets and make a shift away from some of those traditional markets that are a little bit more sluggish. The way that we, IBM, are addressing some of these markets is by investing. And you'll hear us talk about CAMs a lot today, and I make no apology for that, because it's important, and it's how we represent some of those big market opportunities for us, IBM and our business partners. So that is cloud, analytics, mobile underpinned by security, and social and smarter commerce you'll sometimes hear referenced. So you'll hear that talked about a lot, and it's a big thrust of our day-to-day. So how is IBM investing in these areas? So let me talk about some of those. Big data, for example. So you will hear again mentioned a lot of times today a new technology that IBM has launched called Watson. Watson, for those of you who haven't heard of it before, is a profound, game-changing technology built around big data. It's a $1 billion investment from IBM. It's the first business IBM has announced, new business in IBM, for 10 years. That in itself is a big statement. And we have 2,500 professionals committed to Watson around the world. And we have a dedicated team in the UK and in Europe. This system is a system that learns, sometimes called cognitive computing. It can hypothesize, generate hypotheses about problems. It can mine then the world's data to test those hypotheses to see if it's right or wrong, and present to the user the way in which it got to that conclusion. Very, very powerful, profoundly changing industries, healthcare, financial services. That's big data. Cloud. Again, big commitment from IBM. $1.2 billion committed to invest in cloud, of which, or for which, we're going to be building 21 new data centers around the world, most of which are soft layer data centers, one of our new acquisitions that really has helped us leapfrog the competition from a cloud perspective. And they are in the foyer and have an exhibit later on that you can talk about. One of those new pods, they're called, pods will be built here in the UK. So local investment. Mobile. So mobile, we are building 10 new IBM interactive centers around the world. One of those will be in London. I'm delighted that we have great partnerships like those that with Monetize, domain experts in mobile money, to help us lift our technology investment in mobile. And this is all underpinned by our continued commitment to R&D, research and development. Over $6 billion invested in R&D, all about this point, breaking new ground. And to localize that, if I take, for example, our lab in Ireland, we generate a lot of patents every year, and we're very proud of our patent leadership. 150 of those patents came out of the Ireland lab last year alone for Software Group. So we have real brilliant skills and expertise here in the UK, and Ireland, I should say. So, hopefully that sets a scene as to why we're calling it Breaking New Ground, and hopefully that gives you a sense of some of the stuff we're going to cover, but let me be a little bit more specific. So this is the agenda for today. The main plenary speakers, followed by me, will be Will Greenwood, MBE, and I will introduce him properly in a minute. Then Rebecca, who runs the channel in UK and Ireland, will talk a little bit more about breaking new ground and leadership specifically. Sean Jones will follow, who is our Worldwide Vice President for Marketing, and he will talk about how you can leverage some of our investments from a marketing perspective to bring to bear some of these market opportunities that I referred to earlier. And then Sean will be followed by another external speaker, Dr. Ian Pearson, who will talk about some of the future trends, way beyond some of the things I've been talking about today, 5, 10, 15 years and beyond. And again, what might happen in the future so we can ready ourselves for that. In the afternoon, we will have a number of tracks that you can follow. Business tracks, 5 business tracks, which again will have a big focus around CAMs, but also there'll be some industry-specific tracks as well. We will have a marketing track as well that will build on some of the things that Sean has talked about. And we'll have an innovation track, and that will talk about, again, some of the things I've mentioned, Watson, the Internet of Things, for example. And that will then be all culminating in, hopefully, a pitch-side drink with all of us, time to socialise, and probably more importantly, an opportunity for us to recognise some of our top partners, 2013 and 2014. Also during the day, we'll have a number of other activities going on. Hopefully a lot of you will have seen some of the exhibits outside. We will have executive roundtables that a number of you are attending. For example, we have a speaker from our Connexa business, another recent acquisition of IBM, specialist in talent management, progression, and associated software to leverage that within large organizations. And they will be covering women in leadership and women in technology. We have a marketing hub where our 8 marketing partners will be talking about how they can help you with very specific marketing skills where you may not have your own or you may want to build on your own, and how they can help you. And again, Sean will talk to some of that in his session. And we have Meet the Experts and an innovation centre as well. You may have seen the Wimbledon stand where we'll talk about how we're bringing, again, CAMs to bear in our Wimbledon campus, which clearly is building up for Wimbledon Fortnight as we speak. So hopefully you will spend a lot of time at the exhibitors. My thanks to all of the exhibitors for exhibiting and to the marketing organisation to help us put this event together. So that's the day. A big thank you to our distributors who've helped us fund and put this day together. The 3 A's, I like to call them, Arrow, Avnet and Aslan. Many thanks to you guys. Without you, today wouldn't have happened, and without you, we wouldn't be able to run the business that we run. So big thank you to you guys. So I think that pretty much sets the scene for today. I would say on the exhibitor piece, all your coffees, teas, lunch, etc. will all make you pass through the exhibitor session, so you won't be taken away from your opportunity to make the most of those stands. So this is the bit where I get out of the way and introduce our speaker, Will Greenwood.